Hello, I'm Mary Sharratt, and I live here at the foot of Pendle Hill in Lancashire, northern England. Pendle Hill is famous throughout the world as a place where George Fox received his ecstatic vision that moved him to found the Quaker religion in 1652. But I want to tell you a different story, a story about witches, the true story of the Pendle witches of 1612. In particular, I want to tell you about the most venerable and notorious of those witches, their leader and matriarch, and the narrator of my story. Her name was Old Demdike, a woman of power who changed my life forever. See us gathered here. 3 women stood at Richard Baldwin's gate. I bide with my daughter, Liza, of the squint eye, and my granddaughter, Alizon, just 15, but dazzling as the noontide sun, so bright that she lights up the murk of my dim sight. We 3 wait, and out Baldwin storms. Thin as a brittle dead stalk he is, his face pinched, and he's wearing the dour black weeds of a Puritan. A loud crack strikes the earth. Whores and witches, get out of my ground, he rails, shrill enough to set the crows aflight. Get out of my ground. I'll burn the one of you and hang the other. Mother Demdike, whose real name was Bess Southerns, was a cunning woman of long-standing reputation. Her family's business was cunning craft, the art of using charms and spells to heal both humans and livestock. Bess had practiced her craft for decades without interference. In England, as opposed to Scotland and continental Europe, witch persecutions had been rare. But that all changed when the Scottish King James I ascended to the English throne. King James was obsessed with the occult and had even written a book called Demonology, a witch hunter's handbook that his magistrates were expected to read. The tide was turning for Bess and her fellow cunning women, but Bess was not a woman to be easily intimidated, and that terrified her enemies. Baldwin brandishes his whip, seeking to strike fear into me, but it's his terror I taste as I step forward, forcing him to back away. I care not for you, I tell him. Hang yourself. It meant a great deal to me to inhabit the same landscape as my characters. Sometimes I explored the tracks of Pendle Forest on my horse, who actually appears in the book. To do justice to Bess's story, I had to go out into the land, travel in my character's footsteps. These stones are believed to be all that is left of Malkin Tower, once home to Bess Southerns and 3 generations of her family, her daughter Liza and her 3 grandchildren. Of those 3 grandchildren, her most beloved one was Alizon, a young woman who showed every promise of becoming a cunning woman as mighty as her grandmother. It was here, just outside the village of New Church and Pendle, that Bess had the most important experience of her life. In traditional English folk magic, no cunning woman could work her spells without the aid of a familiar spirit, and it was while walking here that Bess met hers. His name was Tib. This carved head you see was the work of a Victorian stonemason inspired by his legends. But to Bess, he appeared as a beautiful young man. At Daylight Gate I met him first, the boy climbing out of the stone pit in Goldshaw. The sinking sun set his fair hair alight. Slender he was, and so young and beautiful. Pure, too. No meanness on him, no spite or evil. There was something in his eyes, a gentleness, a knowing. When he smiled at me, I melted to my core, my heart thumping and bumping till I fair fainted away. The tide was turning for Bess, her clan, and her familiar. Witch hunters, chief among them Roger Nowell, local magistrate and High Sheriff of Lancashire, viewed Bess and her family with contempt and fear. And when a peddler got into a fierce argument with Bess's granddaughter Alizon and then suffered a stroke, Nowell saw his chance. This was the end result. Alizon was arrested on witchcraft charges, and so began the downfall of Bess's entire clan, a downfall which ended on the gallows of Lancaster Castle. Other books have been written about the Pendle witches, both fiction and non-fiction, nuanced and lurid. Mine is the first to tell the tale from Bess and Alizon's point of view. I long to give these women what their world denied them, their own voice. As a writer, I am obsessed with history and place, how the true stories of our ancestors haunt the living landscape. No one in Pendle can remain untouched by the witches' legacy. I hope you will be as moved by their story as I am.